Learn how to bulletproof your knees with this one exercise. Hey guys, it's Ben Seong from Learn Australian Strength Performance and Learn ASP. Now today I want to share with you one of my favorite exercises that can actually help bulletproof your knees. And that exercise is none other than the split squat. I want to delve deeper into this exercise, explaining to you what's the purpose of a split squat, essentially which muscles are you targeting, and if you're a beginner, what is my favorite variation for you in performing a split squat. I also want to talk about how you can progress the activity or regress it if you're not up to performing a proper split squat. And who are the individuals that should really stay away from this activity in its entirety? Let's delve into today's topic on split squats. Now, what is the purpose of a split squat? The benefits of a split squat, if you are performing it correctly, is an exercise that can really help to strengthen your knees. In fact, what is great about the split squat is that the split squat really focuses on one specific muscle. That's the VMO, or what we call the teardrop muscle. In fact, you'll be able to see the teardrop muscle right there, very much like a teardrop. This muscle is also called the VMO, or the vastus medialis oblique. And this muscle is a key knee stabilizer. In performing the split squat correctly, you really recruit the fibers of the VMO, and that is a strong knee stabilizer that could help bulletproof your knees. Split squat is a quad dominant activity, meaning that in performing this movement, having your knees past your toes, you are actively recruiting the muscles of the quadriceps. On top of that, the vastus medialis oblique, or the teardrop muscle that we spoke about earlier, will be recruited in this activity. This is exactly why the split squat bulletproofs your knees. Now, being able to perform a split squat where your hamstrings can clamp your calf is also great in recruiting fibers of the hamstrings at the lowest position. It is an activity that will allow you to stretch the tight hip flexors that you might have and also encourage flexibility in the calves. The variation that I like to introduce for a beginner performing a split squat is actually a low cable split squat. So I put the cable in its lowest position, and I like to use this variation because it allows me to highlight imbalances in the hips as well as tightness within the lumbar region, the torso region. One of the other things that I like to add for a beginner is an elevated platform. So typically I like to get their front foot elevated on a platform. And the reason why I like to do this is because the higher the platform, the less they have to move. Now, if they're an individual that has tightness in their hips or tightness in their calves, and they can't actually extend throughout the full range of movement for a split squat, then an elevated, front foot elevated split squat is going to be very helpful. This is how it's being performed. In a front foot elevated low cable split squat, I want to maintain that my angle of pull is in the direction of the cable, and I come backwards. Now you can start to see that if an individual has an imbalance in the hip, they will tend to sway to the side, the tightness of this hip. So if I'm really, really tight, I would sway in and I'll come in this way. So this allows me to identify whether they've got any sort of tightness in the back or the hip, and I want to maintain that my body is square as I come all the way down. So square, push back. All the way down, keep my body square, push back. A great variation to identify imbalances, a great variation to start a beginner off with. How do you progress or regress a split squat? A really easy way of doing it without changing much equipment is actually where you put the elevation. If I want to make the exercise easier, I put the elevation in front. So this is a front foot elevated split squat. The higher the elevation, the less I have to move down to get the full range of movement. So that becomes easier. To make the movement more difficult, I actually elevate my back foot. So now, if this is my back foot and I have to come down all the way in front, I have to go down a bigger range of movement while I'm performing the split squat. So to make the exercise more difficult, elevate the rear foot to make the exercise easier, elevate the front foot. As I mentioned at the start of this video, there are certain individuals that perhaps shouldn't be rushing into a split squat off the bat. If you are someone that has injured your knees before, if you are someone that has weak knees or a very shallow groove, or in fact a bursa, for example, at the back of your knee, you may not want to rush into this activity because it could potentially cause the situation to aggravate and hurt you. Remember, the split squat is a quad dominant activity, meaning that the goal of it is to allow your knees to extend past your toes, clamping your hamstrings to your calf. If you don't have the flexibility, but are still able and mobile to perform the split squat, you can always start at a regressed position like we spoke about earlier with your front foot elevated. Slowly aim to push that until you can decrease that elevation and do a split squat on the flat floor. So there you have it. My favorite exercise to bulletproof your knees, something simple, something that you can progress and regress, something that can be useful for a beginner all the way to an intermediate, is the split squat. Now don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave a comment about this particular activity. If you haven't tried it before, give it a go. And I'll see